This January, it's time to Michael down your Vincents.
Hey guys, hello gorgeous. It's January, so you know what that means. It's time to Michael down your Vincents. Another retro TV show review for you. This time it is Airwolf on Blu-ray. Been working my way through season 1 for the past few months. Airwolf is a show that I didn't watch as a lad, and I caught it occasionally on Global TV in Ontario. Global TV was the channel that the crappy shows were usually on, and the few minutes that I occasionally would catch it, being a young pup, you would think that a helicopter armed to the teeth like Airwolf would interest me, but I remember just, even at a young age, not being able to endure more than a couple of minutes of it. I thought it just seemed cheap crap to me at the time. So I don't know why I decided to pick up the Blu-ray. It was cheap, and I was on an 80s kick. I was watching all old 80s shows like Knight Rider and Hulk, Hardcastle McCormick, Magnum PI, and it got a lot of good reviews and tastes change. So I decided to pick it up, and now after having watched a bunch of season 1 episodes, I realized that what I endured for those few minutes when I was a kid was Airwolf season 4. Which is utter garbage. And I'll get to that one day when I do review Airwolf Season 4, which was a huge, huge departure from the first 3 seasons. But as far as Season 1 goes, man, I'm blown away. I can't say enough good things. I can say a few bad things about it, which I'll get into. But I'm really, really surprised and shocked at how much I love this freaking show. All right, so the absolute best thing about Airwolf on Blu-ray, because there was a DVD set a few years ago, and if you already have that, you might be wondering, is it worth upgrading to Blu-ray? Sometimes the quality increase isn't that much. I just recently picked up the Knight Rider Blu-ray after watching the Knight Rider DVDs for a while, and the improvement is minimal. But as far as the Airwolf Blu-ray goes, you need this. If you love Airwolf, you need this. If you kind of like Airwolf, you need this. It is gorgeous. And I'm not talking just about the dialogue scenes. Those are fine. I mean, they're not pristine and crystal clear. Those old 80s shows that are being cleaned up and remastered will never look perfect. So for the kids, sorry, this was shot on old, crappy, cheap film back in the day. A lot of it isn't going to be able to be restored as well as Star Wars was. But, you know, it still looks pretty darn good. The dialogue scenes, the detail, there's some grain and whatnot. But the best thing about this season is the flying scenes. That's what's the most important and the most gorgeous looking in the entire show. Anytime Airwolf is flying, and anytime they have a camera mounted on a helicopter following Airwolf, or Airwolf following something else, the aerial footage is astounding. I am blown away. Now, I watch the TV show on a TV. I don't actually watch it on my projector, which is what I watch a lot of movies on. I watch it on a big screen TV, and I zoom in on it because I just like to fill up the whole 16:9 screen instead of watching it in the original aspect ratio of 4:3. So when I zoom in the screen to fill up the whole screen, no one's head gets cut off. What I've noticed about a lot of these old 4:3 shows is the framing, when you zoom in, actually looks the way they frame things today. In the 80s, they left headroom. And today, what they do is they like to cut that off or get closer to it. There's not as much space. So what I find with this show is that when I zoom in, it looks right. The framing of it looks even more dynamic. And it's still super sharp. You can zoom in and not lose any detail, to my eye, whatsoever. And then when you get to those flying scenes, those look so incredible, so beautiful. Not cheap 80s show at all. They rival and they surpass a lot of movie flying scenes that I've seen. Even from the best movies of the 80s. Just episode after episode, when that theme starts playing and the lady takes off and they start flying around, it doesn't matter if, I'm not really into the episode up to that point, if the story has been kind of cheesy or, Jan Michael Vincent's performance has kind of taken me out of it because he's, especially glassy-eyed and rocking back and forth because, Jan Michael Vincent had a little bit of a drinking issue while he was making the show. But when he is in Airwolf, those are the scenes that just make me stop what I'm doing and focus and draw me right in because they are pretty. The cinematography is amazing. The editing is great. They're intense. And while Jan Michael Vincent can be a little hard to take seriously in some scenes, when he's in Airwolf, he's perfect for it. I almost wonder if they just stuck the helmet on him to see what he would look like, kind of like Peter Weller, like how can you act with a helmet on, and other actors who have been obstructed by a helmet. Other amazing performances that we've seen, like Carl Urban in Dread or Rich Evans in Space Cop. And I imagine that they put the helmet on him and they went, he's the guy. He's the guy. We have to Michael down our Vincents this January. Because when he's got the helmet on, his eyes are just on fire. He is so intense, no matter how drowsy he is in the rest of the episode. When the helmet is on, he is on fire. He if looks could kill, is the expression that I always think when he's in there. Because he's got this incredible battleship. For the people who know nothing about Airwolf, Airwolf is basically, if you're familiar with Kit, it's Kit as a helicopter. It doesn't have artificial intelligence with it. It's not robotic. It is still a machine that needs to be operated by two pilots, but it is a super high-tech, expensive, incredibly advanced helicopter, battle chopper that can go Mach 1. That's as fast as a jet. It's just the ultimate weapon. It's a super advanced prototype. The premise of the show is that it gets stolen in the pilot episode by some bad guys, and then they send in Jan Michael Vincent's character, who has one of the coolest names you'll ever hear in any show or movie, Stringfellow Hawk, to get it back. And String and his co-pilot, Dominic, played by one of everybody's favorite, Ernest Borgnine, they get Airwolf back, but they hide it. They won't give it back to the company, the government. They say, you know what, we'll keep it safe somewhere, and whenever you need it, let us know. But we're going to keep this as collateral because Stringfellow Hawk is looking for his MIA brother who was captured during the Vietnam War. So that's the premise of the show. They get hired from time to time by this guy right here, Archangel, who, as much as I love the show, I think having the one blackened lens over glasses to serve as an eye patch for his missing eye is the stupidest look. Not just that, I mean the whole look of the guy. He wears a white suit, he has a mustache, and the patch over his glasses. I really, really wish that I could get used to that, but every time I see it, I just shake my head. That might be blasphemy for people who love Airwolf and love Archangel, but I just think it's the stupidest looking thing. Just should have given him a patch, no glasses. It would have looked so much better. It's different, I guess. It's something. And in typical 80s fashion, the vehicle is one of the stars of the show, and it is so damn cool. The look of it, the sound of it. You know how Kid had that, and it had that very distinctive whine in the background while it was driving. It wasn't just an engine. It sounded like a jet engine when Kit was driving around. Airwolf has a very distinctive whine to it. It's this hollow, almost howl, this. And when it rises up in front of people, it is ominous. It's got a real presence to it. It's not just, oh, look at that helicopter. It's got guns on it and missiles. It really has, even though it's a helicopter made of metal, it has a charisma about it, like the great vehicles of the 80s shows had. More so than the A-Team van or the General Lee or the Fall Guy truck. This thing is dangerous. Very rarely is there an airborne enemy that's a match for this thing. There was just one episode called And They Are Us, where Airwolf encounters a team of attack choppers, which they've trained to attack jets, gang up on them and obliterate them. So that was really the only episode where I felt like Airwolf was in danger of any real damage, because this thing, like I said, it's a lot like Kid. It's a tough bird to shoot down. The pilot, I have to warn you, is really, really slow. I mean, really slow paced. I like a slow burn myself, but this was, in a lot of parts, a snooze fest. It took too long. It's a perfect example that you can go too slow and put people to sleep. That you just have to have that innate thing in you that tells you it's time to cut. All right, this is too long. We've lingered too long. Time to cut. Time to move on. Let's move this along. It doesn't have to be breakneck speed, but I did feel like the pilot, what they told in however long it was, it felt like 3 hours. They could have told that in an episode, like a 45-minute episode. But after the pilot, the pacing is much better. It's still not breakneck speed. It still takes its time. It feels like a Magnum PI episode. It builds and builds to something, and it feels right. It feels like a good pacing. But just the warning about the pilot, that it is a slog, or at least it was for me to get through. So that's Airwolf Season 1. I don't expect Seasons 2 and 3 to be much different than that. If I get through them and I feel compelled to talk about something in particular or something in general about either of those seasons, I'll do another one of these videos down the road. And then Airwolf Season 4. I'm not a big fan of sitting here and crying and whining and complaining about something that's crappy. Just because if something's crappy, I don't do it. I choose not to waste my time on it. So I don't know if I'll even get through it. And if I do, I don't know if I'll sit and waste my time whining about it. But it's something that a lot of people like to watch and maybe like to lament about. So maybe I'll give it a few minutes down the road. Got a comment about Airwolf? Scroll down and go to town. And to join the tribe, hit subscribe. Nerdmaste. Hadouken!